What? Hey guys, I thought I'd get out of the house for a while and move into a luxury hotel for the night. So, luxury. So I'm just taking it in, and I suppose I better get back into it and get some work done, because this is the final day. So while I've been staying in my luxury hotel, I've been taking in the beautiful views, which are right there. So that's pretty cool. This is like a dash background, which is just like the one that we're going to get from 3D Racing Solutions. So they make all the cool dash holders for all the different brands, but how good does that look? It's pretty cool, isn't it? So better get out and get to work. So today we've got a few things to check off and get done, so that should be pretty cool. I've got some fuel pumps, a fan, I've got the dash to finish up today. We've got our cluster back from 3D Racing Solutions, so that's pretty exciting. So we're going to do a dash install of sorts. It is only the prototype for now, so at least we'll see what the shape and look and feel of the actual dash install is going to be. I've cleaned up the inside because it's getting pretty gross, but the nicer this car is getting, the more disgusting and feral I feel. So let's just wrap this up so I can go home and have a proper shower. I am getting pretty sick and tired of getting under here and changing things, so I may as well just stay here and just get all the stuff done under here that I need to. I've got this battery crimp terminal that I've got to put on with these Temco mini battery crimping lugs, I guess, or big terminal lugs. This is a great little compact thing, particularly for doing smaller little ones like this sort of crimp under the car, particularly when this is down on the ground and you're lying under the car trying to do these up. These are really handy, so definitely have a look on our website. We've got these coming hopefully very, very soon. Shipping being a little bit delayed, but I feel like these will be here really, really soon for sale. So if you need a tiny little pair, we'll have these available soon, so that'll be cool. But basically, I've got all these battery positives, which are coming from the fuse box, and there is one there for the solid state relay for the trans brake as well, from memory. So all of these are tied in and they're ready to go. So I'm just going to try and quickly throw a quick crimp on this, and then we'll latch it onto the starter motor. Got a beautiful crimp on that terminal. You can give it a really, really good pull, and it seems to be holding on there really, really nicely. You can get a whole different variety of crimpers ranging in size, length, price as well. You can get really, really cheap versions of the same one that I've just got. You can get them very, very cheap off on online stores, and a big variety depending on what you actually need. But I have found, since I've actually spent the money on a genuine one, the genuine one is actually really, really good. It does make a big difference down here, and it lasts a bit longer. The cheap ones that I got seem to run out of grunt really, really quick, and the oil wasn't in the seals, and it's not quite up to the task of doing many, many, many lugs over many, many different cars. If you're looking to just do one car, absolutely grab the cheap one. If you're looking to do a bit more wiring as a career, definitely invest in the more expensive ones. So I'm pretty much done under here, finally. I forgot about this knock sensor real quick, which I'll just sneak through here. Taking it on and off a few times just to get the length right. So, I actually think we're done. The car's got to go away for a while anyway and get finished up. So when we're actually ready to start this car, we'll go over the entire thing one more time, because you never know who touches it while it's away. So, last couple of things. We've got a transmission temp. That's what's going to go in this little bung underneath here. So we can plug that one in. We don't necessarily need to do all this mechanical part. If this is full of fluid, I don't want the fluid going all over me, going down my arm, going in my armpit, going in my shirt, and then I just smell weird. Not interested. So it's there for somebody who wants to put that in now. I'll cable tie all these wires up out of the way. Trans brake wire, which we've talked about a few times, that's here ready to go. The trans brake was in the side of the gearbox the entire time. I just didn't know, so we just need to put a spade terminal on that. So that's already done. And the speed sensor. When we figure out where this is going to go in the drive shaft, that'll be easy. We can either put a small extension on it to get it to a Hall effect sensor down there, or we'll just coil up the extra wiring that we don't need and we'll put a sensor up here. Flex fuel, so that's up under here. The return pipe will come down from the actual fuel reg, sneak through the chassis rail, and then it will actually go straight into this part of the flex fuel sensor. The other side of the flex fuel sensor will then basically go into either this return line here, or if he wants to run a new style like Teflon hose, he can do that on this side, and that will go back to the tank as a return. So there is a fuel filter there from the old installation, but I don't think that's going to get used again. We'll probably swap that out. So more or less, I'm just gonna maybe put a spade terminal on this one here. Sorry, while I've got it here, I've also got a transmission pressure. So if he ever wants a line pressure, we can simply have that sensor ready to go, maybe on a remote line, and we can mount that sensor up under here somewhere. So don't know if you can see it. There's the trans brake. So there's we need a ground and the positive. So simply we're just going to take that positive, put a spade on it, and then a earth, and I'll earth that to somewhere metal under here. This is my power probe. I freaking love this thing. It is so helpful when you're doing particularly a full wiring harness for the entire car. If you need to do testing to find out which one's the power, which one's the ground, which one energizes something to actually turn it on, just to see if your circuit is actually correct, this thing is great. I'm going to show you just really quickly what it actually does and how it works. So I'll go plug this straight onto the battery that I've got on my test rig up the back here, and then I'll show you how to actually make it work and use it to your advantage. So I've connected it up to my battery. So I've got 12 volts that comes out the tip when I press up, so that's really, really handy. I've got ground coming out of this tip now when I press down, so that can negatively drive anything. And I've got a little ground strap here which is actually attached and basically goes in and straight back out again as the actual battery negative. So I'm going to put the battery negative on this little earth eyelet which I made a long time ago for the actual fan wiring, and I'm just going to show you really quickly how this works. Basically I'm going to put 12 volts out the end here, and we've got ground on the other side, so hopefully at least one of our fans turns on when I back probe really quickly. You can hear our fan turn on. So we know that the fan's actually spinning the right way because I can feel it pulling air through. So that's just a really quick way just to make sure that you've actually wired it correctly. Another really cool thing when you've got this pointing somewhere off in the veg and you're under the dash and you can't quite see what you're doing, you can actually turn an audible noise on. So you can, this is also really handy, particularly if I wanted to have this on a wire up the front, and I've actually got to find out which wire it is down here. So I can have that basically sensing ground. So when I do find the ground for that wire, that's the noise it would make up there. So it makes it really easy just to ground a couple of wires up here when you've got the battery disconnected, and then you can find the doot when you're up at that end of the car. I'm going to do it very quickly, show you how I found the reverse lights in this particular car. I went to the plug that went to all of the different lights down the back here. I grounded the actual lights using the little strap. I'm going to do that so that we can at least put 12 volts straight down the plug and into one of the right wires, and hopefully this is the reverse lights. And there we go. We can see them just ever faintly turning on, which means perfect. That's exactly what I need to do. So I've extended that wire all the way up to the front of the car. We're going to use the little micro switch that is on the side of the actual shifter to find the reverse light. So we've got to put power into one side. It's got to go through the micro switch and then back out the other side, which actually ends up back here. So we'll see if that turns on the reverse lights now. So I've quickly rigged up my switch to 12 volt, which is actually going to come in on the other side of this little micro switch here. I'm going to do some really quick testing. This is step one. Step one is putting 12 volts in through the micro switch, and hopefully that has now made the lights turn on at the back. So I will go and review my camera footage on my GoPro at the back to see if that actually worked. Yeah, so it did. So that's perfect. So that's that's working really well. So now this will help me find a good switched 12 volt, which is coming from at least the ignition switch. If you leave this in reverse, when you put this side on the battery, it'll stay on overnight if you just happen to leave it in reverse by accident for whatever reason. So we'll find a good switched 12 volt, maybe from the actual ignition switch or something like that, so that we can actually power up the reverse lights and they can come on when they need to. So we got our cluster back from 3D Racing Solutions. This is a very early prototype that he was able to rush together for us. So he took away our original one and then started drawing up this one and got it printed just in a few days. So that's an awesome effort from Sam. I really appreciate him spending some time getting this one up and running for me. So we've got our iC-7 dash here. So let's open it up and see how it all looks. So in one of the earlier videos, we were talking about what things need to go up to a dash. Typically you would have a tacho wire, which would come from either your coil negative in your car, or in this instance, it would come from your tacho output on your actual ECU. We don't need to, because all we're going to do is simply connect up the CAN plug, which is going to bring across our tacho. We can do our vehicle speed, our coolant temperature, battery voltage, and pretty much any other parameter that is coming through the ECU will actually be able to just display on our dash very easily. So instead of wiring an extra coolant temp sender, a separate speed sensor for the gearbox speed, a tacho wire, all we're simply just going to do is, and she's wired up, just makes it so easy. We're going to quickly connect up our comms cable as well, so that we can program our dash and make it change all cool colors, and we can put some cool pictures of logos, or I don't know, maybe like a Ford or a big XD, or maybe a Street Outlaw symbol, or whatever really takes your fancy. So very quick installation. That's pretty much installed. I can take out these two screws at the top, which are holding this in place for now. I won't bother because it's only a test fit, but we can make sure that those three holes line up for the screws that hold the dash into this fascia. This gigantic dash surround shroud thing, which is actually so heavy. This fits just like that and covers up the existing dash surround, which goes right there. So there's a little bit more drawing to do. It is only a prototype at this stage, so he's got pretty much the tabs in the right place, but we've got to change a few more things. So once that's all done and painted up, this will look mint. So we're getting down to the business end. This is all very exciting. As some of you eagle-eyed viewers might have seen in the last video, we've actually got battery power. There isn't technically a battery in here. We've just rigged up some jumper cables onto a battery, only because I just want to test what's going on at the moment. So basically, if I turn this on and then on, basically this is past accessories. Now we're onto the on, or the ignition. So basically I've got to go through, I think it's this plug. The only reason I think it's this plug is it goes up to the general area where this key sort of goes up to. So I'm going to guess that's probably where we're going to look. If I put my power probe up onto a certain pin up here, we'll see that it's got 12 volts coming through, or 11.9. Basically, this is telling us that there is power there now. So if I was to quickly flick this to starter, it's staying on, which is good. But if I turn it off, it's staying on. That would mean our ECU would stay on the entire time, and the engine would also just keep running. So that's probably a little bit undesirable. So what we've actually got to do is try and find the actual ignition switch. So it could be this one maybe. Well, there is a ground on that side when the key is off, so that's actually a pretty good sign. Let's try and turn it over. So that's got power on accessories. Oh, we're just got to keep that a little bit more stable just for the testing. So we've got that on accessories. So I already know that that's probably not going to be the one, because we want the next one. We want the actual ignition. If I was to, actually, that's probably a good test also, just to show you what it actually does. If we go to ignition, that also stays on, which is perfect. But if we go to the starter, it turns off. That's not what we want, because the ECU will actually turn off when we go to start the car. Not very helpful. So I'm going to try this last big power wire up here, which has got 12 volts. We're on the on. So if we go back to accessories, that's looking more positive. That looks really good, because accessories, the ECU won't be on. On, we've got 12 volts coming through, so the fuel pumps will prime. And then if we hit start, it stays on. That's really good. If we let go and go back and back, that's exactly our wire there. So a expert that uses yellow electrical tape has already been here. So we're just gonna undo his amazing work, and then we will find out a good place to splice this pink ignition switch into here and neatly tie that all up. When I said we've had problems with this car and this ignition switch before, it's actually just twisted together. That could be a bit of the reason why this has just never been amazing. So we've rejoined that absolute disgraceful stereo installation spec twist and tape. So we've done a very nice crimp, a big solid crimp on that, and pulled that back together. And now we should at least have a very nice, reliable ignition switch. I'm going to maybe just redo the yellow non-quality electrical tape, and then put on a bit more quality electrical tape, just so we can ensure that nothing shorts out under here anymore. And I can, see, starting to find them all again. Just going to remove all this yellow disgusting tape, but while I am doing that, I thought I might pay tribute to the OG wiring guys of Haltech, Kentucky. Andrew and Jason, oh, look at that. That's another twist and tire. That's amazing. So that'll just fall apart. But anyway, Andrew and Jason do an awesome job of designing and making a lot of our pre-made looms. So I actually got a lot of my inspiration and design technique, particularly from those two guys and the way that they make their looms. So epic props to those guys for the work that they do. So thank you, Andrew and Jason from the Kentucky office in the US. You guys kill it. So we're at the back, we're at the business end. We're getting ready to do the final few things, really. We're getting very close. So I've got the transmission fan, a couple of fuel pumps, and the power steering. Power steering is here. I consulted the internet, and the internet said, join all three of these wires to the output of your relay or an ignition switch. So that's what I'm going to do. There is a power that needs to be extended. There's a number of different ways we could do something that big, so we'll just figure out the best way to do that. I'm going to ground this side because that's the ground for the pump. So I'm just going to, instead of boring you with wiring up the entire fuse box, we've kind of already covered that in the earlier video where we did our engine fans. It's just going to be exactly the same thing, but we're probably just going to use a slightly bigger gauge of wire And that's because the fuel pumps draw a bit of juice. So we're going to use a bit thicker, maybe like a 5 or 6 mil cable, and we're going to do the fuel pumps. So I'm just going to use these 12 gauge wires for the fuel pumps. There is 2 of them, and they'll be sort of situated in this sort of area. We haven't got that new carrier, that hasn't arrived yet, but I'm going to guess or assume that they're going to be some pretty beefy posts. Those 2 beefy posts will actually have 2 460 or 525 Walbro pumps, so it is going to take a bit of juice. So it does say for one of those pumps to at least use one of these wires. So we're actually going to run 2 of these wires, and both of those will go up to this terminal, and they're going to run off 2 separate 30 amp relays to power these fuel pumps. So I've rigged up our fuel pumps. So we've got both of those, a positive and a negative up here. We're grounding these to exactly the same place the battery negative terminal is essentially. It's up here. So that's where we're going to ground the fuel pumps straight to the battery negative, and this is coming out of the relay. So these are fused and protected. Once we get that cradle in, we know exactly how big those posts are and the eyelets that we need to put onto those. We'll crimp those on. These are going to be the feeds that are going to go up to the battery positive. These are my 2 for my fuel pump relays into the actual fuel pumps themselves. I've got a small one for my power steering switch, and then I've got the transmission fan here. So they're all going to go through the nice neat little hole that we'll put in the back here, and then these will latch straight onto the battery positive terminal when we replace this. So I thought I'd quickly just show you what a transmission fan actually looks like in case you've never seen one before. So basically this is it here. We've got our power and our ground wires. So that's very, very simple. We're just going to ground that to somewhere existing under here, probably this nut here, which is actually mounted to the chassis of the car. So we'll just repurpose that. So that'll be really, really good. We'll use the positive, which is going to come from our relay box, and that's going to go onto our fan positive. So that's going to trigger that. So we'll try and do a nice neat install, maybe through a small grommet under this side of the car. So that'll be nice and easy. Apart from that, there's not really that much going on here. Basically, the transmission output for the fluid actually comes into the top up here, and then the out goes there, and then the cooled fluid then goes back out into the gearbox itself to keep the transmission nice and cool and working really well. This is the funnest part. I'm wearing, luckily, my brown pants, because this is literally the moment of truth where it either goes really, really well or it catches fire. Brown pants is fairly obvious as to why. Anyway, let's see what it does. Oh, that's the throttle doing its thing, so at least the throttle's powered up. Oh. Nothing's caught fire. I didn't see any smoke erupt from anywhere, so far things are really, really good. The dash is lit up. I'm going to do the best part about the actual dash itself. Looks pretty cool. We need to actually screw it in properly, obviously, but I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So I'll send some photos off to the guys and let them know that it's all powered up and it's looking good. The ECU has powered up as well, which is great. I've got the radio, so at least I can enjoy some tunes on the FMs tonight. So I think that's really, really good. Pretty happy. Well, that's pretty much going to be a wrap for this video series. I am going to leave it here. We are finished with most of the wiring. I reckon we're about 85% done. There is a few more little things that we need to neaten up, tidy up, finish, complete. But this is going to go. This is going to go get some more fabrication done on it. The owner's going to finish whatever parts of the engine he actually needs to finish. There isn't actually any parts underneath those LSX covers, so he's got to put some rockers in and mechanical things. I'm not really sure. So he's going to go do that. There is a bit more painting to be done, as you can probably see. So we're going to do that. We're going to get a bit more dash action. We're going to finish up, neaten up, hopefully get a roof lining. Hopefully about 2 or 3 months, this car will be finished and it'll be back. And then we'll do a Q&A of all your questions that you have asked over the last 8 or 9 videos. we'll try and address as many as we can, if not all of them. We'll try our best, and we'll go through the car and we'll show you whatever questions you've got, we'll try and answer them the best we can. So, guys, I want to thank you so much for sticking by me with this video series. It's been a very long process. It's been long for me and it's been long for you guys, but hopefully it's been really informative and that you've picked up at least one or two things from it that you didn't know before, or a quick tip or a trick that's going to help you get your loom installed really quick and really nicely and professionally. I'm going to go home and introduce myself to my family again because I haven't seen them in a while, so that'll be fun. So that's it. We'll wrap it up right there. We'll see you pretty soon with some more updates for this car. Thanks, guys.